Today we are going to be talking about three-dimensional figures. A three-dimensional figure can be measured in three directions. You can measure its height, its width, and its depth. Here I have two objects. I have a cube and a square. Only one of these objects is a three-dimensional object. Do you know which it is? It is the cube. The cube is considered a three-dimensional object because you can measure its height, how tall it is, its width, how wide it is, and its depth, how far back it goes. The square, on the other hand, you can only measure how high it is and how wide it is. It doesn't have any depth. It's just flat. There are several other three-dimensional figures that we're going to look at today. The cone, the pyramid, the cylinder, the sphere, and the rectangular prism. Today, we are going to talk about three key terms that we can use to help us identify the attributes of these three-dimensional figures. We're going to start by using the cube to help us talk about these different vocabulary words. There are three words we need to talk about. The first is the word face. We need to define it. A face is the flat surface of a solid figure. It is the flat surface that the figure can sit on. So the bottom here must be a face. But the cube has faces all over. You can turn it all different directions and it still has a flat surface to sit on. The next word is vertex. The vertex is the point where three or more faces meet. Let's take a look at our cube again. Here we have a face, flat surface. There's another face, and a face here on top. The place where all three faces meet is at the point. This point is considered the vertex. Now that we've defined face and vertex, the next vocabulary word we need to talk about is the word edge. An edge is the place on a solid figure where two faces meet. So instead of talking about three faces like we did with the vertex, this time it's only where two faces meet. So we have a face here in the center, one on the side, and they meet here at this ridge. That ridge is called the edge. Now that we know what the vocabulary words are, we can use those to count how many edges, faces, and vertices each three-dimensional figure has. Knowing how many they have will help us determine the attributes of each figure. Let's take a look at our cube again first. How many faces do you think the cube has? Well, in order to figure out, we have to count them. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, one on top, 5, and one on the bottom, 6. There are 6 faces on a cube. Next, we can count the vertices. Remember that the vertices are the points where 3 faces come together. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can't forget about the vertices on the bottom of the cube. So flip it over and 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 vertices on the cube. Next, we can count the edges on the cube. Do you think that there will be more edges or more vertices on the cube? We have to count to find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then count the bottom, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 edges on the cube. That is more than there is faces and more than there are vertices. So a cube always has 6 faces, 8 vertices, and 12 edges. Those are the attributes of a cube. Now, let's take a look at the sphere. you can see that this sphere is completely round. Because it's round, it doesn't like to sit still. Does it have any flat surfaces on it? No, it doesn't. It can't sit anywhere. It has no flat surfaces. Because of that, if it has no flat surfaces, we know that it also has no faces. So if an object has no faces, can it have any edges or vertices? The answer is no, because we know that an edge requires 2 faces to meet, and a vertice requires 3 faces. So our sphere has no faces, no edges, and no vertices. Those are the characteristics of a sphere. Just as we identified the faces, edges, and vertices for the cube and sphere, we can identify those same attributes on the rectangular prism, the cylinder, the cone, and the pyramid. Now that you know what faces, edges, and vertices are, you will be able to identify them on all of the 3-dimensional figures.